Reviews for Nvidia's latest RTX 4060 have hit the web just recently, and we're going to talk about them because they seem to have garnered quite a lot of outrage, more than I was actually expecting, but that's not the only thing that has PC gamers grabbing their virtual pitchforks. It seems a particular GPU manufacturer doesn't want to embrace their open, unrestricted characteristics that they touted, so let's discuss that in this video. This video is brought to you by FlexiSpot and their E7 Pro Plus standing desk. The E7 is the ultimate solution for gamers and workstation users seeking the perfect balance between comfort and productivity. Let's dive into why a standing desk is a game changer and why FlexiSpot should be your top choice. Imagine a world where sitting all day becomes a thing of the past. With a FlexiSpot standing desk, you can unleash your full potential by seamlessly transitioning between sitting and standing positions. Not only does this promote better posture and health, but it also boosts your energy levels, enhances focus, and increases productivity. The E7 desk is a marvel of engineering, designed specifically with gamers and workstation users in mind. Its sleek and ergonomic design ensures optimal comfort during those long gaming sessions or intense work marathons. They offer various tabletops, including this bamboo version, which looks spectacular and can be integrated into any environment. The height adjustable feature allows you to customize the desk to your preferred height. Sporting a range of 22 to 48 inches ensures a perfect fit for any individual. The control pad allows you to save multiple profiles, which will allow you to smoothly switch between a sitting or standing position. The E7's sturdy construction provides stability and durability, supporting all your gaming equipment or workstation essentials with ease as it supports up to 355 pounds. The spacious desktop surface gives you ample room for your gaming rig, multiple monitors, keyboards, and other accessories. They also have a convenient cable management tray, keeping your setup looking tidy so you're not tripping over any wires. FlexiSpot stands out from the competition in many ways. With their commitment to quality and innovation, they have become a trusted name in the industry. You're investing in a lifestyle upgrade. Say goodbye to the limitations of a traditional desk and embrace a dynamic and flexible gaming or work environment. Experience the difference today and join the standing desk revolution by checking out FlexiSpot and their E7 using the link in the video description. Hey, what is going on guys? Danny here. Welcome back to the channel and I hope you've all been doing well. Nvidia officially released their RTX 4060 GPU, a graphics card that is supposed to be targeting the mainstream or entry-level PC gamer. While the reception for most of the RTX 40 series has been poor, this GPU was highly anticipated since it's relatively cheap, making it accessible to a wider audience. Traditionally, the X60 class has always been the most popular segment from Nvidia because they've typically offered pretty good bang for the buck. We've previously seen X60 class cards offer the performance the X80 class from the previous generation had. Though these last couple of generations, things got a bit weird. There were two X60 class cards. For example, we had the 3060 and 3060 Ti, you had the 2060 and 2060 Super, and it just made more sense to pay for the higher end model, the X60 Ti class, as it was substantially better in regards to performance and it wasn't that much more expensive. Taking a look at the most recent Steam hardware survey, we can see that 5 out of the top 10 are previous generation X60 class GPUs. When it came to the RTX 4060, based on all the preliminary info we had about the GPU, it wasn't looking great to begin with. I personally was expecting an increase of around 15% over the previous generation RTX 3060 in the most favorable games, and there were some titles where it did show that level of performance, but there were also some titles that showed performance regression, just like how the RTX 4060 Ti had lost to the RTX 3060 Ti. This has never happened before, especially for a segment that's targeted towards the masses. The short answer is that these aren't true X60 class cards. These are X50 class cards, but you're being upsold because Nvidia just feels like at this point they can do whatever they want in the market, and also because they have a monopoly here. Now, the reasons why we're seeing such abysmal performance from these GPUs is while they're built on the newer Ada Lovelace architecture, which mind you does bring some advantages like higher clocks and better cores, there's been some downgrades in other areas holding the cards back as well, and don't forget this is a 107 die, not a 106 die. For starters, the 4060 has less VRAM than its predecessor. Now this won't make as large of an impact on this GPU as you'd think it would, simply because the GPU core would get maxed out before the VRAM limitations come into play. Also, you don't have to play every game maxed out. You can adjust some settings to alleviate the performance issues. Another downgrade they made, which is more detrimental to its performance than the VRAM downgrade, was that they used a slim 128-bit bus, so you get much lower memory bandwidth. Furthermore, they also downgraded the PCIe bus system. It's using a PCIe 4.0 X8 interface. Now, if you're on an AM4 500 series board or AM5 Alder Lake, something recent, then this shouldn't matter to you. However, for those on an older system, which I take take it many people are who are looking into buying this GPU because it's cheap, then they're going to have some issues with some games. Now, I know some of you might be saying, well, they added more cache. If the higher amount of cache was truly enough to mitigate those downgrades, then we'd be having a totally different conversation right now. Now, they did drop the price, which makes it seem like it's a more attractive option than the outgoing model, which was about $30 more expensive when comparing MSRPs, but they downgraded the specs in so many different areas. It's shrinkflation, you're getting less for your money. Nvidia's taken a page out of the big box supermarkets and applied the same concept here. They saw if the stores are getting away so easily with it, then so can we, especially with our market share and mind share. I'm sure most of you guys have seen the benchmarks from your go-to review sites or TechTuber, and this card at the minimum needed to be as fast as the RTX 3060 Ti, a GPU from 2 years ago. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. In a lot of titles, it was barely faster than the RTX 3060, and in some cases, even lost to it. At 1440p, any sort of advantage it had was diminished because it just doesn't have enough bandwidth to handle this resolution, so the regression or the performance gap between the 3060 became a lot more noticeable. So essentially, the RTX 4060 situation isn't all that much better than the RTX 4060 Ti's. From what I've heard, the review guide that Nvidia sent to individual media outlets stated they wanted reviewers to heavily focus on DLSS performance along with frame generation. With frame generation, the 4060 looks like it's over 50% faster than the RTX 3060. Now, if you like frame generation, that's great. Me personally, it will never be a viable substitute for giving you less hardware and trying to appease you with software gimmicks. I was also glad to see that nobody gave Nvidia the preferable treatment that they wanted and still focused on rasterization performance. Funnily enough, the RTX 4060 did end up making AMD's RX 7600 look a bit more appealing, and considering that GPU has been dropping gradually in price, the timing couldn't have been better. However, the 7600 wasn't a great option to begin with. I've said this on the channel many times before, you do have other alternatives which will offer you much better bang for your buck, such as the RX 6700 10GB, or if you're willing to spend a bit over $300, then the 6700 XT is the next best option. Heck, even Intel's Arc A750 might be worth looking into. I've seen it drop down to around $200, which is pretty decent. On the bright side, it's starting to seem like this negativity may start to affect Nvidia. 3D Center, who are a German tech outlet, stated recently that the RTX 4060 is the worst GPU launch in recent times. They sold just 10 units on launch day, which is saying something considering they also mentioned that the 4070 and 4070 Ti sold around 400 units on launch, and those GPUs also had pretty bad reception on launch and very negative feedback from the press and also PC gamers in general. Essentially, what Nvidia have done here is that they've put the final nail in the coffin for entry-level and mainstream gamers. I mean, this whole generation has basically been a complete mess. You either buy a 4090, if not, you buy last gen. Nothing else really makes a whole lot of sense. Moving on, and I wanted to follow up on a topic that I discussed just recently, as there have been some further developments which seem to have garnered outrage over the internet, which is AMD blocking other vendors' tech from being implemented into games or upcoming games. In a previous video, we went over a list of games that were sponsored by AMD and included their tech like FSR, but for some reason, it didn't include competitors' tech like DLSS or Intel's ZSS. Bethesda recently announced that their big upcoming title, Starfield, is going to be sponsored by AMD and will include FSR. Once the internet heard that, you could just feel the virtual outrage because this alluded to Starfield exclusively using AMD's FSR upscaling tech and not Nvidia's or Intel's. My stance on this is that I just feel disappointed that we're at this point where gamers are getting mad about their preferred upscaling tech not being implemented because they expect the upcoming game to have poor performance. So instead of pointing the finger at devs for not properly optimizing their games, they're instead reliant on these band-aid fixes to alleviate the poor performance. Nvidia's marketing over the past few years has definitely played a role here, where they've used or still are using it as a selling point, where they show the GPU getting sub-playable performance, but all of a sudden, with the magic of DLSS, it's totally fine. Don't get me wrong, I still think DLSS or FSR have their place, especially if you're someone who's maxing out every setting and you do want to use ray tracing to compensate for the large performance drop it brings, but just saying you want to use DLSS or any upscaling tech for that matter right from the start, I just don't really know about that. I'm trying to see both sides here. Like if you're using a low-end card like an RTX 3050 or GTX 1650 for example, DLSS can be beneficial in breathing some more life into those games. Heck, FSR does quite a lot of heavy lifting for handheld consoles like the Steam Deck. I guess what I'm trying to say here is that someone with a 4090 or even an RTX 3080 shouldn't be like, hey, I want DLSS or I'm not playing that game because the performance was bad from the start. Now, this being a Bethesda game, I don't really have a lot of faith in them releasing an optimized title unless they get help from the folks over at id Software. Then that's a totally different story and I'd be on board. The other thing I wanted to talk about, though, was that there's really no defending AMD here either. Exclusivity never benefits anyone, no matter what the reason is. It's simply business. Like, if AMD thinks that doing this is going to get people to like them more or buy their GPUs, they're only fooling themselves, and the negative reception really shows what's coming to them. Gamers Nexus recently talked about this in their latest hardware news video where they reached out to get a comment, whether they're really blocking other vendor tech, and simply said they couldn't comment at this time. And usually when someone says that, it means that they're trying to run away from the very thing that they're being accused of. This isn't the second time they've given a BS answer like this either, because WCCF Tech asked them the same question and nothing came out of it. Whereas Nvidia's answer was surprisingly clear-cut, though we'll have to see how that holds up. What I don't get though is people coming to the defense of AMD and trying to justify this. You defending a soulless corporation that's designed to extract as much money as possible from you is not something you should be cheering for. These aren't major league sports teams. I just don't get the mentality of defending a corporation. It doesn't matter if FSR can work on any graphics card or that, Nvidia doesn't let DLSS work on AMD. None of that matters. What should matter is just delivering the user the experience they prefer and implementing as many standards so that, you get goodwill out of that, your game is reviewed well, and performance all around is good for everyone. Whether they want to use FSR, DLSS, or ZSS, there's something for everyone out there. Just saying FSR works on everything is just a garbage take in my opinion. Instead of indulging in these exclusivity deals, what AMD should be doing instead is investing that sponsorship money into their own R&D and actually come out with a competent software and feature set for their hardware that people actually want. Restricting a user base will only make them favor their competitor. And if you think that the amount couldn't have been anything substantial, let me remind you that Nvidia holds 80% of the GPU market share. How much money do you guys think it would have taken for Bethesda to go, sure, this is enough to make us piss off the majority of PC gamers that will install our game? Now, what I find hilarious in all of this is that we were just talking about Nvidia pissing off gamers that they use DLSS to market their hardware, and yet on the other hand, gamers also throw a fit when DLSS isn't implemented. If anything, you have to give credit to Nvidia for this. This is their established mindshare at work, but also having good software comes into play. When we talk about alternatives in hardware, it's why you will see gamers gladly pay the extra $50, $100, even $400 for a similar performing Nvidia GPU when they could have saved money going AMD. Like it or not, Nvidia has invested a whole lot more into their software stack that they're miles ahead of AMD, and even when AMD has the better hardware or they're significantly cheaper, it's not enough to persuade consumers. So AMD just have to stop with the garbage marketing tactics, and they simply have to do better in their software as well. Anyways, that will do it for this one. We'll touch base in the next video. If you guys found this video to be informative and entertaining, then leave a like. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Be sure to check out the video description for cool links and ways to support the channel, such as using my Amazon affiliate link. And if you're interested in seeing more content like this, then consider subscribing. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.